So we will get started. For those of you that I haven't met before, I'm Miranda Hitchcock. I'm one of the founders of Every Dog Behavior and Training. We are a nonprofit, and our goal is to break down barriers to people getting to dog training and behavior. So we offer training consults. We're going to offer classes in the future, but we also do things like this, where we offer webinars about twice a month from local awesome trainers to give people in the area a free way to get more information. So if you haven't attended a webinar with us before, we've got a whole bunch of them on our website. We're scheduling ones for 2021 now. If you haven't already followed us on Facebook and Instagram, please do so. And we do offer both free and paid consults. So if you know someone who just needs to get 15, 20 minutes with a trainer real quick, we offer free consults to try and help out with that. And then I'm sure that Curtis here will give you some information about the Canine Center as well. So with all that being said, we would love to have you join us for more things. We have tons of stuff upcoming in the future. And with that, I will turn it over to Curtis to introduce himself. And then once we get towards the end, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. And that way, once we come to the end of the presentation, we'll go through any questions and answers. Okay.
All right, thank you, Miranda. First of all, I'm Curtis Stringer. It says Patrick Bird, but that's somebody who uses this computer quite frequently for school. So disregard that. My name's Curtis. I've been working at the Canine Center for about 9 years now. I started doing rescue long time ago, the very, very early days of Awesome Pets Alive. And even before that, helping out some rural communities who had very high euthanasia rates. So I'm very much a dog enthusiast, much like I would reckon all of y'all are. So here at the house, believe it or not, there's actually 6 dogs in the house right now. Now I have 2 on one side of the house. I have 2 small dogs here with me. And then I have 2 other dogs in the back of the house. So I am very much running a multi-dog household. It can be very challenging for people who've never done this before. I found myself immersed in this probably around a decade or 15 years or so ago, because I was trying to save dogs like crazy who were getting euthanized at the local dog shelter. And I wanted to save these dogs, but there just wasn't enough resources at the time to do so. So I was constantly pulling dogs off the euthanasia list and pulling them into my house, and just trying to give them a few extra days to see if somebody could adopt them. So I've been running multi-dog households for a very long time. Like I said, well over 10, if not 15 years now. I think the biggest problem that I ran into when I first started trying to run multi-dog households was immediately bringing a new dog inside the house and allowing my dogs who live here to meet it immediately. I think that was probably the biggest mistake that I got into, because a lot of times when you have a dog here, they're set in their ways, they know the routine, and all of a sudden you bring a new dog in who the dog's already living there, convinced are going to steal their resources, their food, their toys, their affection from you. That is a big one. So we've learned a lot from it. So bringing a new dog home, first thing I would recommend, and most people don't like this, but the first thing I recommend is actually separating the dogs inside the house for a minimum of 21 days, so 3 weeks. So bring the dogs in, and we establish foundations, rules, boundaries for what's expected of them inside the house way before we start introducing them to the dogs that are already living there. Now, with the dogs that are already living there, what I do is multiply their resources exponentially. So for example, if I had one dog here and I just decided to adopt another dog and bring him in, I would, believe it or not, have them separated for about 21 days. And during that time, I'm going to establish rules, boundaries, a foundation per dog. And I'm also going to multiply their resources exponentially, meaning I'm going to feed them like 10 times a day. And not necessarily more food, but being fed more often throughout the day. More toy play, more walks, more snuggle time, any and everything that my dog, the new dog, wants, I'm going to give them 10 times more of, so that they're not worried about their dog stealing resources when they come inside the house. So this is one of the things that, believe it or not, we actually do with humans as well. For example, my brother, when he had a 4-year-old son, and when he was at the hospital and his wife was ready to deliver the newborn baby, we all as a family members went to the emergency room and we brought toys to my 4-year-old nephew, Easton. And we said, these toys are from your new baby brother, because we don't want him to feel neglected. We do the exact same thing with children. So one thing, as dog trainers, dog enthusiasts, all of you who are watching this, we don't want to set the dogs up for failure, and we don't want to even hint at the possibility of failure. So we set everything up for success. So I have the dogs separated for 3 weeks. I teach them, they have to sit and wait for their food, sit and wait for the toys, sit and wait for crate doors to be open, actual doors to be open. I teach them all of this stuff, and all of it comes from me or the 2-legged dogs, the humans that are walking around this house, because we're the resource providers. So we get into a nice rhythm, a nice routine before we actually start integrating the dogs into one household, right? So dogs already know, okay, I'm supposed to do this here, I'm supposed to do that there, and then we start to adding the dogs together. That is by far setting the dogs up for success and not failure. Like I said before, just bringing a new dog inside the house with already existing dogs and immediately letting them meet inside the house, in my opinion, could be a recipe for a disaster. And I want to set it up for success. I want the dog who's inside the house going, you know what? I haven't quite met that new dog yet. However, I am getting 10 times more of everything I want. And it's because of that new dog. This is amazing. I love that new dog. And I'm so happy that they're a part of the household now. That's setting it up for success, in my opinion, not simply rolling the dice and maybe meeting somewhere with the dogs on the neutral location, having them meet, this, that. It's way different when you start to bring the dog inside the house. So for bringing new dogs in, right, because we do this a lot, especially when we foster, rotating them, right, in and out of crates, in and out of spare bedrooms, or even in and out of the house, to give them just some space away from the other dogs and everything that's going on, is outrageously advantageous. So here at my house, there's 2 adults and a 12-year-old living here. There's no little toddlers, but we have, I believe, 4 baby gates. And if you run multi-dog households, if you have more than 2 dogs inside the house, or even 2 dogs, baby gates are outrageously advantageous. We use them all the time. Like I said, we don't have any toddlers here. We just have dogs, but we're constantly rotating them in and out to ensure success. So like I said before, we have 6 dogs here right now. 2 of those dogs are not integrated into the pack. So they're still being separated from the other ones in the house. So one right now is in a spare bedroom. He's working on the bully stick. Another one's in a spare bedroom working on a Kong, right? And I know you guys all know what I'm talking about, working on that. And they're happy doing that. It's not that they're being put in a room because they're punished or they're ostracized or something like that. We're just giving them some downtime. So when we start rotating the dogs, again, we're ensuring that nothing could possibly go wrong. So for example, bringing a new dog inside the house, and everybody has different feeding rituals for their dogs. I would never feed one dog on one side of the living room and another dog on the other side of the living room. I want a steel curtain in between them, or a baby gate in between them, as I don't want any competition over resources when bringing a new dog in. And furthermore, again, 6 dogs in the household, Never do that to this day. All the dogs would have designated spots to actually eat and work their dog food, or puzzles, so that they're not worried about another dog looking over their shoulder, another dog encroaching on them, going, hey, what is that? What have you got? All of that is thrown out the window because we're setting this up for success. Dogs, those of you who are extreme dog enthusiasts, possibly dog trainers out there, you know that dogs are slaves to patterns and routines. They absolutely love and thrive on this. They know what day of the week it is. They know exactly what's happening. So as long as we're saying, hey, look, there's no big surprises coming here, right? Everything is set up for success. There's absolutely nothing to be worried about. If you went about it this way, there's a very, very high chance you're not going to have any conflict with dogs inside the house. And one of the hardest things to help people out with client-wise is they have 2, 3, 4 dogs in a house or even more, but now they're starting to fight amongst each other. So by establishing this nice foundation for, I want you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Way before we start putting the dogs back together again, it makes it 10 times easier. And you would have to start that separation period for around 21 days. So that's 3 weeks to get a nice solid foundation in. But it also helps for other things too. So possibly repairing relationships. Dog does something wrong and we need to really, really work on one specific behavior. Then we're going to back separating the dogs and actually saying, hey, look, I need you to do this. I don't want you bum rushing the door and barking at people, right? So we would want to do that one dog at a time. We don't want the dog on the couch. We don't want the dog on counter surfing. Again, we got to do this one dog at a time rather than having the whole pack together and trying to ostracize one dog in the middle of all that. So the separation really, really comes in handy. Even with dogs who are already integrated, if there's one specific problem that we need to address, by all means, I want to do it with that one dog, not everybody all together. So the 21 days helps us out. One-on-one relationships with your dog rather than other dogs, in stopping undesirable behaviors like I just mentioned. And this can be quite daunting for people when they hear me say run multiple households. But like I said, I'm actually doing it right now as I speak. And I've been at work all day. I actually just got home. I got home like about an hour ago, like 5:15-ish, right? But like I said, 2 dogs on one side of the house, 2 dogs out loose with me right now, and then 2 dogs in the back. So all of those dogs right now are actually working on something. For example, a puzzle, right? So dogs back there working on puzzles, or maybe a bully stick, something interesting, and they're separated. So do not want them to compete over resources. These dogs hanging loose with me right now. And then the dogs I have in the back of the house, they're working on something as well. Again, separated from one another, but very, very happy about being separated because they have something to work on, whether it be a bully stick, a puzzle, anything like that, and giving them some downtime as well. So when we're running multi-dog households, one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, what are the rules in the house? Because every household is going to be different. For example, my dogs, and I don't know if you can see him, Catfish. He comes out of his little cave right there. He's allowed on the couch, right? For some people, some households, this is a big no-no. They don't want the dog on the couch, right? My dogs are allowed. My dogs are allowed in the kitchen. In fact, I sleep with 2 of my dogs because I absolutely love it. So I think first thing that we'd have to do is establish what's allowed and what's not allowed, because it's going to be different for every household, right? And then we reinforce that per dog, right? As we're going through this 21-day training period. So what's allowed, what's not allowed? The things that I would definitely say are allowed, aren't allowed, is impulse control. Definitely we want to work on that. For example, the dogs have to sit and, let's say, wait for their food. We don't just put food down and they immediately just go at it like they're Tasmanian devils. So I would have the dogs sit and wait for their food. I would have the dogs sit and wait for all sorts of doorways to be opened. So the crate, for example, I have to sit and wait for the crate for the dogs to come out. Doorways, have to sit and wait for to go outside, have to sit and wait for the baby gates for those to be open, right? We give them a command, have them sit and wait patiently for that. Those are the things that I would definitely say are big ones that we want to reinforce. Also jumping on guests, people who come over. Now, these are strange times we're living in with COVID, so not a lot of people are coming over to our house. Hopefully, this COVID nightmare will end someday. We do have people coming over quite frequently. I still want to teach the dog that when somebody comes to the door, knocks on the door, we're not going to all bump. You can imagine 6 dogs all rushing the door and barking at somebody, jumping up on them like crazy. That's real easy for them to get redirected on each other, if not the person, and then it's a total nightmare. So we start with one person, one dog, rings the doorbell, goes to the door, and we work on polite meet and greets, right? And we do that per dog over and over and over again so that they know what the pattern is and what's expected of them. So I would say that those things, just a little couple things right there, sit and wait for things, food, space, doorways, people coming over, doorbells, right? When they get into this big commotion, right? Doorbell rings and everybody starts going crazy. It can be extremely annoying, and it's amping the dogs up into a very, very high arousal. So I'm constantly wanting to work on impulse control per dog. And again, that's where the separation comes in. So if you've ever tried working 2-3 dogs at one time, it can be a bit of a challenge, can be a bit of a juggling scenario. So as far as separating the dogs out, working with them one-on-one, and then slowly reintegrating them, oh man, makes your life so much easier. Like I said, baby gates, outrageously advantageous for us. Also, when working on, let's say, working on one dog specifically individually, right? What I would recommend is having a house line on the dog. And when I say house line, I know that a lot of you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's extremely similar to a drag lead, right? I would never use a drag lead on my dog because I don't want the leash to mean my dog can walk wherever and do kind of whatever when that leash is on. That leash should have a high value to it, and really it should have rules to it, meaning you're not allowed to pull me all over the place when this certain leash goes on. So that the line that I'm talking about, a house line, would be something made out of, let's say, lightweight rope or clothesline attached to the dog, about 6-7 feet long, that they drag around the house only when supervised. So if you're not there, right, you have to take it off. There's a chance it might get tangled up onto something. We want to make sure that we're there supervising them. So for example, working on certain things with one dog individually, he's got a house line on. So if I'm one of these people where I don't want my dog on my couch, rather than going over, saying something to them, grabbing them by the collar and pulling them down, I want to go over and grab that line that's attached to them, turn away, and just start walking. So I make it very, very non-confrontational. I'm not giving attention to the dog while I do this. It just makes things 10 times easier having a house line attached to the dog so that you can show them what you want from them. Too many times we're looking at dogs, saying things and expecting they know what we want. The house line makes it so simple because we're showing them what we want. Instead of running to the door and barking at whoever's there, right? Wouldn't it be so much easier to go over, pick a line that's attached to them, turn away, start walking so that we can get them away from the door or get them away from the window, right? Get them off the couch. We don't want them in the couch. So I'm a big believer in guided learning, which is showing the dog how to get it right, not penalizing them after they've done something wrong, but showing them this is what I want from them. And when you're running multi-dog households, this is big. It's a big one because all of them get so excited, so amped up. You having a house line on them 10 times easier as far as moving them, showing them what they want. Again, going back to 6 dogs in the house. This is it's a project, so it doesn't just take me doing this. It also takes my roommates that I live with. They have to be on board as well. Somebody, let's say if I have a dog who's not integrated with my pack just yet, if they accidentally let a dog out into this pack and they're not integrated, that could be a big recipe for disaster. So again, want to go back and make sure that I have solid foundations per dog so that they're looking to me for any decisions that need to be made rather than each other and or trying to rule the household themselves, right? I want to give them a real good idea of what's expected from them. So, and all of this takes time, right? Like I said, I hate to bring a dog in and just immediately expect him to kind of know what's going on. I want to show him exactly what I expect from them when they come into this household. And most of it's real simple. Like I said before, you have to sit and wait for your food. I'm going to play with you with toys. I'm going to feed them. I'm going to play with them. I'm going to give them a place to sleep at night. I'm going to groom them. Right? I'm going to do all of these things to where at the end of the day, my dog would look at me and go, God, you're some sort of God. Right. Other dog, so it's okay. It's all our thing. Where I'm sure you guys saw a cat in the background a second ago. The cat thinks the exact opposite. You feed me, you love me, you play with me. I'm a god. So it's just the difference in the species of the two animals there. But as long as we're throwing in rules, boundaries, what's expected of them, showing them how to get it right. It goes a long way before we start actually putting them together again. And when we do put them back together again, we do integrate them. They at least know the baseline, what's expected from them. And like I said, right now, 6 dogs inside the house, actually about 4 of them are already integrated. They're fine with one another. There's another 2 who we're still working on that process of, hey, look, this is how we're going to behave inside the house. So it's a lot to take in, right? I mean, 6 dogs, that's a lot to have in one house. For some people, I got off the phone with a guy, a good friend, client of mine, on the way here, and he just adopted a new dog in the house. And we immediately went over how to make this right, how to ensure it for success, multiplying the resources per dogs, separating them from one another to get that foundation in for at least 3 weeks. And then we'll start talking about integrating dogs with one another. So again, a lot to take in. Let's see. I see there's a chat button down here. So Miranda, if you want to jump back in here, or if you have questions, by all means, now is the time. Let me know. I think I see a couple down here. So I'll just look at this real quick.
Yeah, so the first question from Joanne, who said she had to jump out, but she let me know she'd be watching the recording. She said, any tips on encouraging a dog from redirecting onto the other 2 dogs when excited? The other 2 are very tolerant and it causes no fights, but it's rude.
Okay, so let's see. And I think I'm looking at this Miranda thing. So I have to leave, but look forward to watching the recorder. I don't know if you can. Okay, yeah. So that's a big one right there. So redirecting the dogs onto the other 2 dogs when excited. Ooh. So what I would probably recommend in that case is immediately starting a 21-day separation protocol from the dogs. Redirection, that can get a little tricky when we start talking about redirection bites. If that is what you're talking about. I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, to have only been bit a few times in my career, very, very minor bites. But I would say the worst bite I've ever received was a redirected bite, because I came from behind. There was two dogs getting into a squabble, immediately whipped around. So that's a big one. So I would go back and start separating dogs, implementing foundations per dog, and using a house line that are attached to the dogs. So where if they do start that rumble tumble, all that nonsense, it is very, very simple. Pick the lines up, move the dogs, redirect them away from one another. If those lines aren't on there, it gets very tricky. Because then we start thinking about, okay, how in the world am I going to separate these dogs without getting bit myself, and how to keep the other dogs safe in the process. So house lines, absolutely invaluable tools when it comes to separating the dogs. But I would have to ask, probably first thing, what are the dogs actually getting into? Is it something that they're barking at? And maybe I missed that part, or is it just constant wrestling with each other and then they redirect onto another dog? I'm not sure. But Miranda has all my info, so you could send me that, maybe email me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. Just real quick, like I said, 6 dogs inside this house. None of these dogs wrestle with one another. And that might come as a shock to some of you, but none of them do that. A lot of behavior cases inside this house. Like I said, nothing but rescue dogs inside this house. A lot of them have damage histories. One of them 7 pounds, for goodness sakes, right? So I don't want wrestling with that dog. I don't want him to get hurt. I'm a big believer in going back and treating dogs how we did 30 years ago, which is man's best friend. 6 dogs inside the house, none of whom would wrestle with one another. If they want to do anything fun and interesting, who's it with? This guy, the 2-legged dogs inside the house. But that's me, and that's my philosophy. And I could sit here and tell you horror story after horror story about dogs being allowed to wrestle over and over and over again, and it goes a little too far, and then we have trouble on our hands. They get into a fight, and then we have to go good night. It takes us a while for them to regain that trust between one another. Let's see, what else we got, Miranda?
We also had the question of, would you do the same protocol with the separation and everything with a new puppy?
Oh, absolutely. Ooh. Because absolutely, that puppy is going to go in there and be a Tasmanian devil, right? What can I get into? Oh man, this new place, I'm going to chew everything. I'm going to destroy everything. I'm going to pee on everything. And then, especially if you have an older dog in the house, that new puppy is going to be going up and pestering that old dog like crazy. And that old dog, believe me or not, is going to be, good night. Why did you do this to me? Right? So, absolutely, for a puppy, yes. Man, they really, really take a lot of time to cultivate, sculpt, mold, however you want to call it. So by all means, puppy, good night. I want to bring them in. I want to separate them for 21 days. And for puppies, believe it or not, I might go even longer than 21 days, just to ensure that process goes the way I want it to. Especially, let's just say, for example, 8-week-old puppy. Remember, they don't reach adulthood till 18 months of age. That is a long time, a lot of mistakes to be made. So absolutely, yes, puppy, let's teach them how to get it right. And let's not expect our other dog to correct them. Let's show them how to get it right. Right?
Awesome. So Katie asked, what are your thoughts on dog daycare? Kind of off the multi-dog household topic, but it seemed to affect my dogs in a negative way.
So I'm not a big believer in doggy daycare. We offer at the Canine Center, we offer our version of doggy daycare, which is where you come drop your dog off in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon, but we're going to do something crazy, which is we're actually going to work on training items with your dog throughout the day and with a person. We're never, ever going to throw your dog into a group of other dogs and say, have fun. You'd have to think about, let's say 30 years ago, would you ever, ever, ever take your dog to a doggy daycare or a dog park? And the answer is no, because they did not exist 30 years ago, right? If I were to say to you, canine dog is man's what? And the answer would be best friend. So if you've traveled the world, like I have over the past like four or 5 years, going to 4 distant places like India, China, and doing dog workshops while I was over there, believe it or not, I wasn't there just to have fun. If you were to ask somebody, where's a dog park or doggy daycare, they would have no idea what you're talking about. Instead, they would have this perfectly well-behaved dog right by them, looking at its owner going, I love you so much. Oh, they would see another dog from across the street and go, so look back at its owner. So I'm not a big believer in places that run play groups with doggy daycare, because all it does is amp the dogs up, lots of wrestling, lots of mouthing one another. So take the dogs there over and over and over again, put a leash on the dog, and then go take the dog for a walk down the street. It sees another dog from across the way. Now it loses its mind because it can't get to the other dog and can't, quote, play with them. So it starts barking, starts lunging, starts turning on, biting the leash, starts looking at you going, why aren't you allowing me to go play with the dog? What I would encourage everyone to do is actually play with your dog more. And people might say, well, that's crazy. I don't have the time to do that, whatever. Well, that's where the Canine Center comes into play, where you can bring your dog there for a, quote, doggy daycare. And we work on having fun, but we're working on training items at the same time.
Awesome. Kelsey asks how to handle 2 female dogs that have grown up together but have started to show aggression towards one another.
Oh, good night. So are they litter mates?
I don't know. We'll see if, Kelsey, if you want to let us know if they're litter mates or not. In the meantime, Sarah asked, do you walk multiple dogs together or take them each on a separate walk?
When you're starting out, always walk them individually, always. You're going to notice quite a big difference between walking 2 dogs at once compared to walking 1 dog at once, especially if the dogs are reacting to anything, other dogs, people, squirrels, smells, right? Whatever it is, it's going to be so much easier training 1 dog to walk in the neighborhood out on a loose leash, and then your other dog out on a loose leash, and then slowly getting them back together again. What you'll notice, like I said, if you have 2 dogs and you're walking them at the same time, if just from listening to me, if you start walking them one at a time, I guarantee you will notice a difference in behavior, because now they don't have, quote, backup along with them. Remember, these are pack animals. One dog does one thing, the other dog immediately follows suit. They're sheep. So yeah, I would definitely walk 1 dog at a time. Really come down hard on loose leash walking skills per dog, and then we slowly get them back together again.
So Kelsey said the 2 females are not litter mates, but they're the same age, only 2 months apart in age. They're both about 1.5 years old.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend separating the dogs 21 days, right? And going back to, these are the fundamentals, what's expected of you. 2 females would be, actually the very worst combination you could have would be mother-daughter females inside the house. The next hardest ones to do would be sister-sister from 2 litters, from the same litter, inside the house. And then the easier it would be female-male, and then the easiest would be male-male brothers, right? Now that's litter mates. You guys know this as far as dog enthusiasts. 2 females together can be quite a trick. This is because the females they make the species survive. So their instincts are much stronger as far as, let's say, maybe the males. If it helps you in any way, think about lions. Who does the hunting in the lion world? It ain't the guys, it's the ladies. They're going out, they're ferocious, man. So I, by all means, would separate them. If you need to come see me at the Canine Center, see Miranda, and help you gain control back over your household. Because I'll tell you right now, you take one fight, one skirmish, right, to make the dogs think it's possible for it to happen over and over and over again. So you need that 21 days to help break the cycle and help the dogs out and thinking, okay, this might not ever happen again. And to be honest, it could be a lot longer than 21 days as well.
And I think that's a really important point for a lot of folks. They think my dogs have gotten along, so they will always get along. And just
Right.
like humans, we know that relationships between dogs are not stagnant. And so sometimes we have to kind of reset things. I know we've had a lot of issues with dog-dog interactions during the pandemic because suddenly people are home more, the routine has changed, the environment has changed. And so if you're suddenly having issues with, your dogs at home getting along, don't think that, everything has suddenly gone wrong, but you may need to reset and kind of start things over to some degree so that they don't escalate. I think another really important point that Curtis brought up before was this idea of, having your dogs always be wrestling, and it kind of tips over sometimes. And so one of the things we talk about a lot is that as trainers, we get people in to say, my dogs are getting in fights, my dogs are having these things happen. And it always seems like, what happened right before that? Was there a way we could manage it before that? So we think about toddlers where they're in the grocery store, they're having a temper tantrum, and we think, could we have given this kid a nap 20 minutes ago and avoided this whole thing? So anytime we're noticing that we're having tension, or we having skirmishes, or it's getting really heated, and we know that if it keeps getting more heated, there's a chance that they may, flip over into something else. We, as the humans with the opposable thumbs, we get to be the smart ones who say, okay, it's getting to a level 6. We got to stop it before it gets to a level 7, because then we're at risk of something tipping over into the bad stuff. So Curtis has given a lot of strategies for even avoiding before it even gets to the level 6, and teaching the dogs to kind of remain at a calm level around one another. But that's something I think for all of us to remember, is that sometimes we're letting things get until they tip over and then going, oh, why did this happen? Instead of saying, okay, I see it coming in the future and I can prevent it now before it happens. So that's a very common thing we talk about a lot of the time, especially with our dog folks. Any other questions?
We think about dogs and we're like, oh, they'll work it out. No, I don't want them to work it out. I want to work it out for them. I'm the manager. I decide all the managerial decisions. They're fry cooks. They worry about frying fries all day. That's it. That's all they should be doing. I'll take care of the big stuff.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's a great analogy. Any other questions, folks, while we've got Curtis? I know we got him for a limited time tonight. We're excited to have him be able to come out, but if y'all have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. If not, Curtis, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So the Canine Center, so the email is more fun than dirt. That's what you should be, more fun than dirt, people. Or the phone number is 512-721-8496. That's how you can get a hold of us. Like I said, we're on 16 acres, going out on 290 towards Dripping Springs, all outdoors. We've been practicing social distancing long before it was popular. In fact, we made it 4 feet longer. It's actually 10 feet. It's got to stay 10 feet away from all other dogs. We don't know, you come out to Canine Center, you think every dog there is friendly. It's not. There could be some serious behavioral issues that the other dog is dealing with. So 2 ways you can get a hold of us right there: phone number and email info at More Fun Than Dirt. So it's info at morefunthandirt.com. How you can get a hold of us. And yeah, we love dogs. We're dog enthusiasts. We've been doing this for a long time, many years between all of us. So yeah, come out and see us and outside. Right?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Curtis. I really appreciate it. And I think Margaret's back in the background. So thank you for helping out.
She's right here. She's right here.
Hanging out, making sure everything goes smoothly. So thank you again so much for being here. Again, Canine Center is one of the training centers in Austin that we really appreciate and like to work with. So again, my name's Miranda. I'm one of the founders of Every Dog. We host webinars every couple of weeks, and we try and work with all of the awesome local positive reinforcement based trainers in Austin. So if you're looking for resources, if you're trying to figure out, a good trainer to go to, please feel free to reach out to us. We can help direct you to the right place. We do our own consults, and we post lots of fun stuff on our blog and on our Facebook and Instagram. So we want to be your resource to help get you connected to the resources you need. If you know anyone who is interested in training, but maybe hasn't made that leap yet, please let them know as well. We really want to make sure that everyone in Austin has access to training. Our motto is dog training is for everyone. It is not just for rich people. It is not just for people who are super into dogs or have a certain breed or got them from a certain place. It is for everyone. So please have folks reach out to us, whether they just got a new puppy or are having behavior issues or want to do something like daycare, but in a safe way that is going to help their dog, like what Curtis was talking about. So we appreciate y'all being out here. We will post the video recording and check out our website for more offerings, and check out the Canine Center website at More Fun Than Dirt. So thank you all so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you, Miranda.
Okay, bye.